Hey friends, Happy New Year, and thank you so much, so much for spending this year with me. We've had a fabulous one. I have a lot of wonderful fragrances to share with you today. I've been doing these monthly fragrance awards for about a year and a half now, and it's been a great way to showcase the fragrances that I wore over the past month and share my thoughts about them through this category approach. I asked a few weeks ago if you'd like to see a year in review, and a lot of you said yes. So this is that video. Oh my gosh, this was probably the most stressful video to figure out the category awards for. I sat with my notebook, my fragrance notebook, and my pen and my paper, and I agonized for about an hour over these categories. I wanted to share with you this is my sort of primitive approach to all of the fragrance awards for the month with the categories, and I keep track of them this way. You would think I would use a spreadsheet by this point, but I don't. I still do it by pen and paper. The approach that I took for this video is to look across all of the months for that particular category. So for example, I'm going to start off with the category of best for the season. This was the rule, I only looked at the fragrances that were chosen as best for season throughout the year and then picked from those. So it's kind of like a best in class award, if you will, for each of the categories. Otherwise, I would have driven myself crazy looking across my entire collection with a fresh start. So it was easier for me to look at the fragrances that got that award, if you will, over the year and then choose from that group. So I hope that that makes sense. Okay, so we are going to start with the best for the season category. And because we're talking about season and there's 4 of them, I do have 4 fragrances, not 8, 4 in this category to share because I wanted to pick one per season. So again, this will be from the best of the season throughout the year. So I'm going to start with my best winter fragrance, and it's going to be Bronze Tonka from Carolina Herrera. Oh my goodness, what a gorgeous fragrance. This is a really thick fragrance. It has coffee and leather and oud and sandalwood, and there's some sweetness in here. Oh yeah, there's some sweetness in there, but by and large, this is a really sort of sticky, thick fragrance, great for the winter if you like those heavy hitter fragrances and you want to smell a bit distinctive. A very resinous fragrance more than anything else. A coffee note in here, saffron too. What I get most out of this fragrance, though, is that leatheriness with an oudy touch to it. It's thick. It is a thick beast mode fragrance, and you don't need a lot of this. So this is the best for the winter. Bronze Tonka, beautiful ombre bottle. So then after winter comes spring, and of these spring fragrances I wore this year that made this category, I've got to go with Mandarine Basilic, which would also be a great summer fragrance. Beautiful citrus and basil mixture makes this a super unique fragrance. If you like fragrances that are different, have an herbal touch to them, and remind you a little bit of something in the spa direction. This is sprightly though because of that mandarin note, a really, really pronounced mandarin orange note in here. With the basil's so gorgeous though. I just love that mixture in here. And this is a fresh, uplifting, happy fragrance and very sort of true to those 2 notes. Orange, like an orange mandarin sort of smell with a basil note. Absolutely gorgeous fragrance, a favorite of mine. Then we go to summer, and I believe a full bottle of this is under the tree from a family member. I have worked with a travel spray of this, and it is Soleil Blanc. Y'all, it's the queen of summer fragrances along with Terracotta and a few others, but these are like those quintessential summer fragrances. Soleil Blanc is just such an elegant coconut fragrance with some citrus nuances to it. You can't beat this. It's that elevated resort scent. I just love that Soleil Blanc is a mixture of some of my favorite notes. There's coconut, tuberose, ylang-ylang, yellow, white florals, the creaminess from the coconut. It's just gorgeous. I love this. I have the Eau Soleil Blanc as well, which is a lighter version, and it has more of a citrusy aspect from a neroli note. This one is more in the creamy direction, which is what I love about it. It does still have a little bit of the citrus aspect, but by and large, it's a coconut floral fragrance that is just, in my opinion, to die for. I put this on and just feel like I'm living my best life. Moving on to the best for the season for fall. Gosh, so many fabulous choices this past fall and some that I featured in these videos, but I have to go with Coffee Addict from Theodoros Kalotinis, which is a true to life, very like latte-esque sort of smell. I mean, you know, I'm smelling it now and it even smells oddly like cocoa, like a hot cocoa. But anyway, more than anything, it smells like coffee, freshly brewed, delicious espresso coffee, accompanied by caramel. There's a lot of sweetness in here, like a syrupy sweetness, absolute Starbucks type of a smell for me. And it's a powerhouse and lasts a long time and fairly affordable. I think this 50 ml bottle is in the 50-ish range, unless he has changed his pricing. So good. So, the best everyday fragrance of the year may be a bit of a surprise to folks because it's one that has actually gotten a lot of hate on YouTube over the year. Hang with me here. So, it is undeniably Juliette Has a Gun Pear Inc. Really pretty bottle. The problem with this fragrance is that we were all expecting it to smell like what? Pear. And it actually has not that much of a resemblance to pear. The pear that's in here is soft and subtle. It's as though you had a shampoo that has pear in it. In fact, I just realized what this reminds me of, and it's the shampoo and conditioner called Amber Rose from Theory, which I've talked about a lot on my other channel, Essential Veronica. Listen, if you like makeup, if you like home stuff, if you like products, if you like chatty videos, if you like to just hang out and watch a decent vlog, I think they're decent, check out Essential Veronica. Anyway, I talk about a shampoo conditioner combo that I love. It has that freshness of that shampoo conditioner combination. It doesn't smell like Pantene fresh. You know, like some shampoos are really in the soapy fresh direction. This is like a floral shampoo kind of a smell with a little bit of the fruitiness from the pear, some sweetness. It comes across more as sweetness than it does a fruitiness, if that makes sense. Yes, some fruit is sweet. A lot of fruit is sweet. But I think this is a fragrance that's a sleeper. Like a lot of people decluttered this right away and didn't really give it a chance. It's one that when I put on, everyone talks about, well, a lot of people, not everyone is coming up to me, but a lot of people think it smells nice and fresh and clean. When I've gotten in elevators after wearing this, people have commented, you smell really nice. So this is that great everyday, clean, yet sweet, yet feminine fragrance that is a sleeper of a fragrance. It doesn't last super long. You may get a few hours out of it, but I think it's totally worth topping up on this. In the category of best special occasion fragrance is one that I almost gave up on and sold because when I first tried it, I was like, oh, I don't know about this. It's Tiziana Terenzi Hale Bopp. First of all, let's give it up for the exquisite bottle that it's in. This thing is super heavy, super substantial. When I first tried this, it reminded me a lot of Guerlain's Shalimar. However, this is a much more tolerable fragrance than Shalimar. Shalimar, which I have and sometimes enjoy. It's the sometimes part. I have to be in the mood for that one because it can get a little bit overpowering for me. This is like a cousin, like a more polite, well-mannered cousin of Shalimar, if you will. Vanilla, very heavy vanilla and amber fragrance with some spices like nutmeg and cinnamon sprinkled on top. So when I first tried this, it was a little much for me. And as I let it grow on me and tried it more and let it settle down and really sat with it, if you will, it became exquisite. This is a beautiful fragrance, very wonderful for special occasion, like the belle of the ball kind of a thing, where you want to be your best sophisticated smell. There are some slightly powdery nuances, but not powdery like in the poudre fragrance kind of smells, like Narciso Poudre and those. I mean, like, if there could be such a thing as like a moist powder. I realize that by nature, powder is dry, but imagine if powder had a moistness to it. You might get a little bit of that nuance in here. But by and large, sweet, vanillic, ambery, spicy fragrance that is just divine if you like something like a Shalimar, but want it to be more tamed, a little bit softer and rounder around the edges, and still project and last for a very long time. Hale Bopp. The sexiest fragrance of the year. I mean, you guys, these are big claims, right? I have to give it to Oui La Vie Belle, which is also, I believe, a more recent release. I don't know if it was released this past year, in the past few years, or whatever. First of all, the bottle is lovely. I think it was released this year, or maybe the last year. That's not the important part. The important part is I was in New York for spring break, got into an elevator, smelled this woman. We were descending in floors, and my introverted self had to get up the courage to ask the stranger what she was wearing because I was like, oh, wow, that's beautiful. And it was this. She couldn't really describe. She was like the new Lancome or something. You know, listen, people that are not in the fragrance world, that aren't talking about perfume 24 hours a day like we weirdos are, because it's a little bit of a weird hobby to be obsessed with fragrances, yeah? They don't really know a lot about the fragrances they're wearing. They just know they like it. And they know that that maker's Lancome or someone made it, right? And it ended up being this really heavily fruity and sweet fragrance with just enough patchouli. Don't get scared by the patchouli if you hate patchouli. In the background to give it a little bit of character and base. More than anything, it is this beautiful fruity, I think it's a raspberry note in here and some other sweet notes, floral fragrance. There's a rose nuance in here and I think iris. Oh, I love this. I will say some other people have tried this on my recommendation and they just thought it was okay. They thought it was very like ordinary, designer-esque. hey, that's fine, to each their own. As for me and this body, this is sexy. This is Jessica Rabbit, va va boom sexy, in my opinion. One that I would not hesitate to pull for date night with hubby, and it drives him crazy. So yeah, this is a winner for me. In the category of the biggest surprise of the year, this was a hard one because a lot of fragrances surprised me in lots of different ways, but I'm going to go with a fragrance that I still haven't figured out how to pronounce, Tubereuses, Castane, from the Maison Lancome line. This is a fragrance. I got a sample of this from Lulu. Hey, Lulu, at Lulu's World. And when I tried it on, I thought, ooh, I'm not sure what I think about that. I think there's some parts of it that I like, but I don't know that I need a full bottle. Now, I love this whole line just about. There's maybe one or two that aren't like my faves, but I've loved the whole line. So I put that sample aside and then came back to it months later and did like a full wear. And it just did something super magical on my skin. I don't know that you would love this, and I'm not telling you that this is a safe blind buy because it does have a level of bizarreness to it. Yes, there's tuberose, but there's also a beautiful chestnut note. There's a nuttiness in here. It's really interesting, and the magic comes on your skin. You can't wear it on clothing. You have to wear it on your skin. And by the way, this is an oily fragrance, which put me off too. However, that's why I have to wear it on my skin and not on my clothing. So tuberose and chestnut and this lovely sweet tonka, but like ever so sweet, not gourmandy sweet. This is a really unique, interesting fragrance. And if you're adventurous and want to try something really sort of off the beaten path, but soft and delicate, this might be an interesting one to try. So the surprise comes in the way that it transformed for me, especially as a fragrance that I had given up on based on the sample. I was like, oh, that was fun to try. I don't know. But yeah, here she is, living her best life in my collection in all of her delicious glory. And then the best bottle for the year. There were lots of beautiful bottles, including the one I just showed you, but there's something just really beautiful about this Accento Overdose bottle from Xerjoff. Yes, there's something also simple in that, hey, it's a gold bottle in the same Xerjoff shape as all the other Xerjoffs, but I really like when you put it up close, it's almost, you see that? It's almost like there are paint strokes. Now, I could have put some of the Moresque bottles in here as well because those are gorgeous, but there's something especially regal about this bottle and its shape and the top and the brush strokes on it that I especially adore, as well as loving this beautiful floral fragrance in here with some touches of greenness and aldehydes. This is, did you hear that? Let me do that again. That is what this one does to me. So, best bottle. Who can guess the worst bottle? It's actually a lot of bottles because I went crazy last summer and purchased dupe after dupe after dupe. I just went down this rabbit hole with Alexandria fragrances, with Dua fragrances, with Dossier, and I think one other, Be Layered, which is, well, you know, a sister of Alexandria, and also Okcha. I went crazy purchasing those. And I can deal with most of the other bottles because they're simple. But these bottles, it's Dua, you know, because I have ragged on these bottles over and over again. I do not like these stickers. I just don't like them. I don't like the artwork. This one is called Killer Angelic Elixir, and it is a combination of angel share and pure malt inspiration. I know that Dua recently put wooden caps on their bottles, and I'm a little irritated. I wish I had known they were going to do that. I would have waited until this year to purchase some. Anyway, now, of the entire collection that I have of Dua, I would say about half of them have worked out and half have been either okay or I think I'm just going to get rid of them because I have something better. And then there were a few fails. But anyway, the bottle, we can do better, Dua. Anyway, let's move on. My favorite blind buy of the year, there were many lovely, lovely blind buys, but it has to be one that was in the blind buy category. So by the way, I recently posted a top 10 blind buys of the year. You'll see that those are 10 that I actually purchased in this year. So go see that video if you want to see my very favorite from that I purchased just this year as a blind buy. This one I actually purchased last year, if I'm not mistaken, but it was in a blind buy category in one of my videos. So that was probably more complication than you needed to know, but it's Malibu Party in the Bay from Simone Andrioli. This is very, very, very close to Virgin Island Water by Creed. Okay, but I like this better. This has stronger projection and longevity than that fragrance. And I love the summeriness of this. This has a beautiful lime note. There's coconut, there's rum, there's a lot of sweetness in this, as well as the tartness from the lime. It's a nice combination. It's happy, it's fresh, it's a yacht fragrance, it's a laying on the beach fragrance, it's a sipping your summer cocktail on your resort balcony kind of a fragrance. Very happy. And you see, I haven't used a lot of it. That doesn't mean I haven't used it. I've used this a number of times, but it's strong and you only need a little bit. It's a beautiful, beautiful fragrance. Then in the category of not a safe blind buy, the best in class for not being safe as a blind buy. I know, strange thing to sort of sort out in your mind. And I only have the oil perfumery version of this, although I have sampled the original. It's Tom Ford's Oud Minerale. I bring this up because I think that Ulta now has an Eau de Oud Minerale, which probably smells a little bit like a watered down version of this. So I wanted people to know what you're getting with that. This is a really bizarre smell that takes a lot of getting used to. Yes, you do get this oudy woodiness in there and this marine smell, like the smell off the ocean. There's a saltiness. There's sort of a traditional cologne-esque, like from the 80s type of a smell in here. I don't know. It's just that fresh salt air, but it's fresh, but it's dense. Almost like, again, back to that wetness thing. Like if you think about a wet night on the beach, or a wet afternoon on the beach, rather, when the storm is rolling in, that sort of like salty, cold freshness that you get in the air when you know it's about to thunderstorm on the beach, like you're going to get that big thunderstorm, and you get the sea smell, the oceany kind of a smell with oud mixed together. Really fascinating smell, one that I have to be in the mood for. Otherwise, it can be really overpowering. But if you like adventurous smells, try getting a sample of Oud Minerale from Tom Ford. It's really a fascinating scent, but absolutely unsafe as a blind buy. And then I'm going to go to my overhyped fragrance category, and one that ruffled some feathers when I mentioned it the last time. Sorry about that, but my opinion, that's all it is, you all. My opinion, that's it. Everybody has their own. And for me, it's Jazz Club from Replica, which I do find to be a really nice fragrance, and one that I am moving over to my husband's shelf. And this is the reason I find it to be a little bit overhyped. This is one that people have gone crazy over. And I do think that a lot of the hype around this has to do with one particular really popular YouTuber that loves this. And that's great. I'm glad that that person does. But I think sometimes what happens is when one person hypes something up, a person that's really well known or popular, other people then smell more than they actually smell, if that makes sense. Like their phantom brain picks up this amazingness in the fragrance that maybe isn't actually there, or maybe it is. I don't know. It's up to you to decide. Use your power of smell to figure out what you think. For me, and so this is a rum and tobacco and woody fragrance that's supposed to be very reminiscent of smelling like a jazz club. I think it's a really nice fragrance. It's very, very interesting. It's a little bit on the drier side. I do think it's it's a nice fragrance. I do think it leans a little bit masculine. And my issue is, I just think that there are better tobacco fragrances, boozy tobacco fragrances, like Tobacco Maniac, for example, from Theodoros Kalotinis, like Ambre Tabac from Daniel Hosier, that I just think are a little bit easier to tolerate, more fun to wear than Jazz Club. That's not to take away from this being a nice fragrance. That's it. I just don't think it's as deserving of the like overhype. It's not just hype, it's overhype. That's a whole different kind of category of craziness over a fragrance. Are you following me? In the category of hidden gem, I've got to give it up for a fragrance that I think is super underrated and has fallen off of people's radar. It was big on the scene maybe, I don't know, 3-4-ish years ago or something in that neighborhood. It's Deep Red by Hugo Boss. The bottle isn't the best, and the bottle does not convey to you what this smells like. I'm not going to tell you that this is the most fascinating fragrance in the world, but I am going to tell you that it's one that gets complimented every time that I wear it. It has citrus and a fruitiness, and it has also... there's a little bit of a gourmand aspect in it. There's some sweetness and some breadiness that comes across almost like a freshly baked bun out of the oven, like a bread bun. Super affordable on discount sites. And like I said, one that every time I wear it, people tell me that I smell really nice. So it doesn't rise up to the top of people's list, but I do think this is a nice one. It's almost as though if you've smelled Good Girl from Carolina Herrera, it is as though that one had a younger, more playful, citrusy sister. This one kind of reminds me of that. So a nice, decent, affordable buy that I think is really like the biggest hidden gem of the hidden gems of the year. So then for my bottom 3 fragrances of the year, again, they had to show up in that bottom 3 category to be considered for this. So this is like the worst of the year. Dua's Blondie. So this is a dupe for Tom Ford's Violet Blonde, which I have never smelled. So I was expecting this very cold, violet, irisy, purplish, bluish kind of delightful powdery smell. I got none of that. I don't even know what was happening in Dua's Blondie. I just remember going, if this is what Violet Blonde smells like from Tom Ford, I don't understand what all the hype is about. I have not sampled Violet Blonde, so I can't speak to whether it's similar. Have you? And have you tried Dua's Blondie, and do they have similarity? I don't know. But I ended up decluttering this fragrance because it did absolutely nothing for me. It was like so flat as to be pitiful. It was a pitiful fragrance. So that had to go. A fragrance that I actually gave a second chance to, and it disappointed me all over again. And then I was mad at myself that I wasted a fragrance day on this, was Lemon Island. This fragrance I had so much hope for. It's called Lemon Island. So I was imagining smelling like, lemon trees and citrus orchards and all of that. Nope. It smelled like laundry detergent. And I'm talking about like a stale, bad breath plus laundry detergent. As though I'll leave it at that, with a little bit of lemon sprinkled on top. And it was just a big failure for me. So I want nothing to do with this fragrance. I want it out of my life. If you like it, I'm glad it works for you. This was a big no for me. And then a fragrance that I still have, probably because I'm part crazy, and it is from Sugar Milk Company. This is an indie company, and it's Birthday Cake. Why is it that I want to keep this fragrance? It is because, my friends, the opening of this fragrance smells exactly like, look, if you grew up in a city near a Valencia, you know what I'm talking about, the bizcocho, the really delicious, moist vanilla cake that has the pineapple layer in the middle. It came freshly baked, and you took it home and it was still moist, almost moist like a tres leches cake, like that kind of cake. In the opening, you get that for about, at most, 30 minutes. I would even venture to say less than that, maybe 15 minutes. It is just like, ooh, like the Shangri-La of gourmands. This is that birthday cake smell that you've always wanted in your life. But then something happens. It takes a left turn, the birthday cake scent lifts off and flies off into the distance, and you're left with something bizarre, funky, off. So I've waited for this to macerate. I've waited and waited and waited, and it just hasn't gotten better. So I guess it's time to let it go, but I keep spraying it just for that opening because it's so amazing. But it was like the biggest letdown in terms of the potential that it had, because it tricked me. When I first tried it, I was like, oof, I'm there. I have found the one. And then it let me down. Like a really toxic relationship. You go on that first date and you think he is the one. And then he does something at the end of the night, like pick his nose or reveal some weird thing about his past that you just can't get over. That's this fragrance. Okay, we're going into the middle three for the year. So this was an interesting one. I'm like, what do I mean by the middle three of the year? So I kind of put a little bit of a twist on it. These are the middle three that, if they were stronger, that's the caveat for how I'm doing it in this video. If they were stronger, they might be a top three. Okay, so I'm going to start off with Fleur, that is sold at Sephora and on its own website. And this is the fragrance Hanami, or Hanami, I'm not sure how to pronounce that. And it's a sandalwood fragrance. A beautiful, soft, subtle, really gentle, cozy sandalwood fragrance that has a lovely fig note and a little bit of really distant, like milkiness in it even. A little bit of a floral touch. It is delightful. I even pick up a slight coconut accord, which that happens with sandalwood sometimes. I really enjoy this. I think it's soft. I think it's gentle. I think it's delicate, and I want it to be stronger. So this is lovely if you're in an office setting or something like that. But I would love for this to have, like, if it has a volume button on it, and this is probably at like a 4 or a 5, I'd love to turn it up to a 6 or 7, and then it might be like in a top tier category. But for now, this is a middle category just because of the gentle softness of it. Then I'm going to also put in this category Hugo Boss Private Accord. For her, I think that's the official name of it. It's got one of those long, complicated names. Chocolate and, oh yeah, the scent Private Accord. That's what it's called. Says it right on the bottle, Veronica. Chocolate and orange. A lot of people use this as a bedtime scent because it's a very soft scent. It's lovely, it's gourmand, it's edible when you first spray it, and maybe you get 30 minutes to an hour out of it. I've gotten up to 2 hours out of this, but you see, I haven't gone through a lot of it because I don't reach for it very often because of the softness. Man, if this had longer staying power or projection and or, like, can it have one or the other? Can it project a lot? or last long. And if it had both, man, it'd be that killer gourmand fragrance. So it's nice for the price that you pay. You can get this on discount sites for about $30 and use it as like a bedtime scent. Or if you're a person that just likes a gentler fragrance that you don't want to last a long time, this might be a fabulous one for you. Then one that I really, really enjoy as a cozy sweater weather fragrance, a bedtime fragrance, if I just freshly showered and putting pajamas back on, look, Kiss Me Intense from Nicolai Parfumers, Nicolai Parfumers. This is an eau de parfum. Lovely. I wish it was stronger, even more projecting. It's a very, very soft, very cashmere feeling fragrance. It's like a marshmallow, like a soft, sweet marshmallow cashmere feel to it. I think it's exquisite for what it is. I also wish this had more oomph and depth to it so that I could wear it more often as a date night fragrance. But it's a soft skin scent, so beautiful. This is one that I would recommend with no hesitation to people that like that kind of cozy sweater weather fragrance. Yeah, but I want more from it. That's why it's in the middle category. But yes, I want this and I will keep this in my collection, as the others in this, Hanami and Private Accord. Okay, friends, so it's time to wrap up with the top 3 of the year. What an award to give to Fluid in a Bottle. So how did I figure out this category? Again, it's the same rules. It had to be in my top 3 in some other video of this year. But then I added the extra caveat that it was something I purchased this year. Why? Because I did a top blind buys. I recently did a top 10 for life video. Go check that out. That was a hard one to figure out. Ooh, it's hard to narrow down you all to 10. So let's talk about the top 3 that I also purchased this year. So I was in that category and purchased this year. Let's start off with Issey Miyake L'Eau de Issey Pure Nectar, and it comes in this ombre bottle with the gold bottom. I heard Misha at Spicy Looks raving about this and ended up picking it up. I am a fan of the original L'Eau de Issey. Beautiful 90s fragrance that will always have a place on my shelf. This one is just so beautiful, feminine floral. Feminine floral. I didn't look up the notes, but if I had to guess off the top of my head, we're talking about rose and peony, and maybe there's some pear or something sweet in here. It's a sweet floral that I think is jaw-dropping for men. My husband loves this. When I wear this, he goes bananas. So I gotta be careful about this one, but beautiful fragrance. Then I like the original Ariana Grande Cloud in the blue bottle. It had to grow on me. I didn't love it when I first tried it. And then I wore it and got lots of compliments and saw it differently. Like when you wear something and people like it, you're like, wait a minute, let me try this again. And then I came to like it. I also came to see the resemblance with that other fragrance that everyone talks about all the time. Starts with a B and ends with a 0. Anyway, I do like that one a lot. But I also like Ariana Grande's Cloud 2.0 Intense, which is very much like the original Cloud, except a deeper, more creamy version with a more pronounced coconut note. Still has the lavender, still has that like medical Band-Aid kind of a smell, if you like that, the sponge sugar thing that people think of, all of that. But it also has a creamy coconuts in here that I think elevates this and makes this a bit more mature, if you want that, from the original Cloud, and just amazing. They're both beautiful and they will stay in my collection. And then, the crowning glory of the top 3s this year that I also purchased anew, and I have 2. One that really is the one that I featured in a video. It's Commodity Milk Bold, but I also picked up the expressive version. Ooh, really, this one, really creamy, marshmallow, woody smell with some spices. There's like a cinnamon, nutmeggy type of thing. Yes. And then this one is very similar. This is the expressive. So if you're not familiar, the bold is the gold lettering and the expressive is the white. The expressive, to me, my opinion, you may disagree. These are very similar. This one is lighter, airier, more on the marshmallowy side, whereas this one is a little creamier, well, actually maybe a lot creamier and woodier than this one. But the basics of these are like sisters that look very much alike, but maybe like the eyes are different on one than the other, or the cheekbones are just slightly different, that sort of a thing. So good. I adore these. Not everyone does. Some people cannot tolerate these and find them cloying, so please sample first. Sephora and Commodity does sell travel sprays. You can also get samples on Commodity of these. But these are by far in the top 3 category for all of the months, the top winner of the ones that I purchased this year. So my friends, that brings me to a close for my year in review. I would absolutely love to hear your thoughts on these fragrances and anything else that you might want to share about your year, your fragrance, your perfume year in review. I appreciate you for staying this long through this video, and I wish you the happiest of New Year's. Y'all take care, friends.